So we talked about Masashi because she came back for the Samurai Remnant banner, and you gotta be crazy to think that I'm not gonna talk about my girl Ereshkigal over here when she comes back for this Carnival Phantasm thing. Because Ereshkigal just got a buff here for the anniversary over here on NA, and she is crazy stupid good now. The one issue she had pre-buff is that she had a really strong kit, but she really didn't do a whole lot of damage, especially when you lost the buff on her second skill. Well, no more. Now she is going to be a very strong looping servant if you want to use her for that, and I even got her to loop against Sabers. Granted, you do need kind of a strong setup for her to get it, but I think that speaks volumes to how good this unit could be. If you need a strong buster farming servant, Ereshkigal just might be your girl. Because that Earth attribute power mod is insanely good. Not only do a lot of servants fall under that, but a lot of just random common enemies also fall under that banner as well. Plus, her kit is still as good as ever if you want to bring her into more difficult content, and we'll get into that in today's video. But before we begin, make sure you leave a like on the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel for that daily FGO content, as your boy's gonna make sure that you always got something FGO related to watch every single day, keeping you informed on what is going on both versions of the game, even if they are a little bit slow right now, as JP is kind of still finishing up their most current event, and NA, we're waiting for the next event to come out. But don't worry, your boy's got you covered. I also might be releasing some Samurai Remnant reviews and just some thoughts on the games in the future, so stay posted for that. But with that being said, let's start moving into Ereshkigal's kit, starting off with her hits. Now, there's two things you need to take note of when you look at her hits. For one, she's got the double buster deck, which is nice because that allows her to buster Brave Chain with her own NP, meaning you can get some really solid buster turns going, especially with Koyenskaya being released, as she's not only going to beef up Ereshkigal's buster cards and allow her to do some nice hits, but it also gives her refund on those buster cards if you do want to use her in more difficult CQ content. It helps her be pretty consistent. Not that she really needs it though, because Ereshkigal not only has a 50% battery, but she also has an insanely strong arts card. Now, it might look a little deceptive, because it only has that 0.54% NP gain on it, but that 6 hits paired with her passive skill of 11% buffing that arts, and something she has on the third skill, basically means this can function as a full refund for her battery if you crit on this arts card. That's no joke, no exaggeration, it is that strong. Basically, look at that one arts card, and whenever you see that, you gotta get a crit on that, and even if you don't, you'll still get some massive refund, but I would highly advise going for that crit because you will refund your entire NP back, pretty much guaranteed. It is ridiculous how strong that one arts card is, and I'm surprised they gave her such a strong arts card and also gave her a 50% battery, but you know, I guess they understand Ereshkigal is really popular, we should make her dummy nutty broken. Now, the double quick card she's not really doing anything with. I guess you can try to drop some stars with it. She does have 11.8% star gen. But you also got Koyenskaya, who you can just slap some 20-30 on, and that'll take care of your star genning needs. But let's start moving into some of her skills, because her skills, even to this day as a current JP servant, are still really nice. Some of the turn values might be a little bit low, but they are still just some of the strongest skills I've seen. They're very, very strong for what they provide for her and the party. So starting off with her first skill, this is like the uber mega survivability skill. This is pretty much like you pop this and you should not die, because you're getting debuff immunity for a turn, insta-kill immunity for a turn, buff removal resistance by 100% for a turn, and invincibility for a turn. And all of that's going to be on a 6-turn cooldown. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat. These are all 80% chances to proc, so you could miss out on some of these. But if you really care about that, you could, I don't know, throw one of the CEs that gives you the buff successful rate, right? We have some of those that I believe are 3 stars if you really care about that. Or, I don't know, throw Ozymandias in the team. Someone like that you could throw in there. Or Landling. We have options if you really need to guarantee this. But it is insane because it just covers all of your bases, right? You're not going to get stunned, charmed, you're not going to get any attack downs, NP damage downs, no defense downs, none of that is going to be coming to you for a turn. The insta-kill is not super crazy because it's not a super common thing, but when there is a boss that has insta-kill, it is really nice that you can cover yourself, and especially on this one, for whatever reason, they actually double dipped into it, as we'll get into the NP later, to pretty much make sure that she's never going to be getting insta-killed, which is really nice when it does crop up, because in Lost Belt 7, not going to spoil what fight it is for those of you guys that want to remain spoiler free going into that story chapter, but there is an insta-kill boss, and right, when you have stuff like this, it is very nice. And so if they're still going to put that type of content out, it is nice that you can have a really good CQ style servant that can resist that, and then also guarantee that their buffs are not going to get removed, because that's the most annoying thing, right? You set up your whole survivability thing, you get all these buffs, and then the enemy's like, nope, and then just yeets all your buffs off. It's nice that you can try to guarantee that they will stick there to make sure you stay alive. At the very least, the invincibility is guaranteed, so even if you somehow whiff all 3 of the other buffs, you're still going to be protected for that turn, barring that like the enemy doesn't have, say, like Pierce Invincibility or something along those lines. Now moving over to her second skill, this is just some good generic stuff. It's a 50% buster buff and a 50% battery. Not a whole lot to say here. You pop this when you want to do big damage, or you pop this whenever you want to get to your NP. The fact that she has a 50% battery makes her very versatile when it comes to farming setups. As you'll see in the background, I'm messing with a whole bunch of just different setups with Kaleidoscope or a starting 50% charge CE, Oberon, no Oberon, just flexing around with what you can do with Ereshkigal. Just having the 50% battery in the Buster meta is really good. I know they gave it to her in year 2 just because it's easier to do 3-turn farming if you just have big beefy batteries, but it has aged so well for her and has made her really, really strong as a Buster looping servant. Now, her third skill is where some of the magic starts to happen. So off rip, she's going to give everybody 20% defense, 30% NP gain, and 3k max HP for 3 turns. These are all very nice, you know, making your supports a little bit tankier and a little bit beefier with that max HP. Plus, I like it when DPS type servants, or your main DPS, I guess, as Ereshkigal would be, I like it when they give buffs like these to their allies, because you give charisma to Merlin or Koyanskaya, they're probably not going to use it very much. Sure, Koyanskaya has an offensive NP, but if she's not your main DPS, she's not going to do that much damage anyway, right? And Merlin, what's he going to do with the attack buff, right? He'd rather have stuff like the defense so he can stay around longer, the max HP so maybe he lives an extra hit, and the extra NP gain so he can get to his NP easier to further support Ereshkigal. I love it when the DPSs have this ability, when they actually give good, relevant buffs to their supporters, right? Because say you're using someone like Iskandar, and I know I'm not trying to pick on him specifically, but he's like a guy that gives a ton of different buffs to the entire party, but if you're using him as your main DPS, what is Merlin doing with the NP damage buff, the crit buff? He's not doing anything with those, but these are all very relevant things that you can give to any support, right? If we get a future really strong Buster support, I'm gonna assume they're gonna want all 3 of these things, right? Because as a support, they're not the primary damage dealer. They need things that keep them around longer and help them get to their NP to make your main DPS look better. So I cannot stress enough how much I like that they built Ereshkigal like this. But they also had this ability where she gives everybody the Blessing of Kerr buff for 3 turns. Now you'll see this in the farming as well. You cannot actually stack this buff. I believe back in the day there actually was a way that you could double stack this, but I don't know if that still works anymore. Regardless, the effects you do get on this, as we'll move into her NP, are pretty nice. So if you look at her NP, it not only functions as her main method of damage dealing, but it also functions as kind of a pseudo support skill as well. So she obviously is giving everybody the attack buff if they have the Blessing of Kerr buff. That's kind of nice, right? But most importantly, she's going to be getting that attack buff for herself as well. So if you are using her as like a secondary DPS or something, she could provide a little bit of extra offensive value to them, right? That's kind of nice. And it's 3 turns, so every time you fire this NP, you should be stacking that attack buff and getting stronger and stronger every single turn. But again, I like that they doubled down on her being really good with her support. She plays super nice with them because she also increases their critical attack resistance by 20% for 3 turns and makes everybody insta-kill immune for 3 turns as well. Just super nice. Imagine you're going into, like, I don't know, the Hassan challenge quest, right? Where he can insta-kill some of your guys. It's just nice that you can kind of mitigate how annoying that mechanic is going to be after firing your NP after, selecting the third skill. Make sure your Blessing of Cur buff is up before firing this, otherwise you won't get the buffs. But it is nice how much she actually protects your supports and keeps them around and makes them far more useful than they already were. And then even for herself, even if the other supports aren't using the attack buff, she's at least stacking that attack, which is going to play very nicely with the Buster buff she has on her second skill, that she has on her Overcharge, and the Power mod that she has on her NP, giving that 150% bonus damage against Earth attribute enemies, which is really strong. And even though you could say, well, I mean, she's really only going to be good against Earth attribute archers and berserkers, right? No, you can bring her type neutral and she will be pretty effective as a farmer or even as a DPS. Now, I wouldn't recommend bringing her against Saber class bosses, but against Saber class farming nodes, like most of the normal free quests, she can handle those fine enough. Now keep in mind, my Ereshkigal is only NP1. She is Grail to 100, but she's not like gold foed or anything. There's nothing super special going on here aside from a bit of extra stats that you get from Grails. But because I know Ereshkigal is super popular, I know there are people out there that are going to Grail, Gold Foe, maybe even NP2, 3, 4, 5 their Ereshkigals, and they'll perform even better if you've invested that much. The fact that she can even do farming type disadvantage at all, I think speaks to how good this unit is now. Now granted, that is with the Earth attribute damage mod up. I think if you try to take her against like Sky attribute sabers, she's gonna get cooked, right? Like she's not gonna be able to do that. But it shows to how versatile and how good and valuable this servant is. I cannot stress that enough. Now, am I telling you to go summon for Ereshkigal? I'm not necessarily doing that, right? You can go and still save for Jacques de Molay, you can save for Lancer Ryoma, you can still save for, say, Koyenskaya and Scotty at the end of the year. Those are the primary target servants that I would advise most people to save for, because someone like Koyenskaya, especially, if you don't have her already, you want to get her on your account. But if you have Koyenskaya, you've got Oberon, you've already taken care of getting your Castorias and your Scotties and all your other good supports, and you're looking for better DPSs or better farmers to put in your Chaldea, Ereshkigal is not a bad one to go for. Like, I'm doing the servant ratings, and I think this is like the first EX rank I'm going to give to one of these servants. I'm very comfortable saying that about Ereshkigal because I really like her performance. I am very, very impressed with her. The only thing that I guess I could criticize is maybe we do something with the first or the second skill, but the first skill is already so strong with all of the just nice effects they're giving. Like, even the debuff immunity is better than the debuff immunity we get nowadays. Nowadays, we get debuff immunity, and it's like one hit, one time, one turn, right? She just has it straight up for a turn if you get it. And there are ways to manipulate that chance to make it guaranteed, right? Again, with like CEs or people like Landling, Ozymandias, these people that increase your buff success rate. And the second skill, sure, the Buster buff is only one turn, but at the very least, she still gives herself a Buster buff on Overcharge. And you can still loop that Buster buff in Buster looping as well. So it's not like you just lose it for one node. Granted, some of my setups might be a little bit more high roller because I have a max limit broken K-scope, but you can loop it on turn 2 and turn 3 on your looping if you use the Atlas Academy to get that extra cooldown with the Koyenskayas. And so it really doesn't end up mattering all that much. It's still very much usable. So I really like Ereshkigal. I think she is a very, very strong servant. I don't know if I would say she's a must summon servant, but you will definitely get a lot of mileage out of her. And if you're using like kind of a more mid Buster looping servant right now, like let's say you're even using Lancer Artoria, who I don't think is quite as good, doesn't have the same versatility that say Ereshkigal does. Going for Ereshkigal could be a nice little upgrade for you if you want to kind of step up a little bit and have a bit better of a Buster farmer, because man, I'm telling you, that buff they gave her did wonders for the servant. It pretty much knocked out the one issue I had with her, and that was her damage. So now she's got pretty much everything on lock. Maybe they'll buff her first or second skill in the future, in which case she'll be solidly in the EX tier of servants, but at the worst, you could give her A+. I don't think she could be any lower than an A+ servant. You try to tell me B+ or A- in the comments down below, I'm coming after you, all right? But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I will catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Peace, late guys.